welcome back to Blanche Case Fitness. It's Wednesday, and you know what that means. It's time for Jump Around, our weekly cardio class. And here we are in week 4 of April Powers. I have a feeling that somewhere online I put week 3 again today, but you know what? It's okay. It's all right. Time has no meaning. It might as well be week 3, but it's not. It's week 4. Woo! And also, how did we get here already to the end of the month? It's just really weird. So anyway, hi everybody. Yes, when I scheduled my social media posts, it was a much cloudier, rainier day, and of course now the sun is out in full force, and the sky is not cloudless, but pretty overwhelmingly blue. So I've sort of gone through most of the Colorado weather patterns today, which is nice. It was a stunning morning, though. I've lived in Colorado for, almost 7 years now, something like that, which is ridiculous. But one of the things that I do miss about other places that I've lived is just greenery, really luscious greenery, because Colorado is a very dry state. And so it is usually pretty dry outside. And so this morning I got up and I went for a walk, and, it had been raining all night, but it wasn't raining then. So everything was wet. And there was still like the cloud cover, but it was also really light. It was just so beautiful. It was just amazing. Everything, it really highlighted the fact that, things are growing again. It is actually spring. There are leaves popping up on trees. The grass has actually turned green instead of the yellow color that it is most of the year. And yeah, that was really wonderful. It was really wonderful to experience. So it was a nice, like, actually feels like spring start to the day, and a really wonderful walk as well. Just, I like to get out for walks in the morning just to feel centered and feel present. Like, for me, that is something that walking is really good at. Yeah, it's also a nice thing to do when you get up before most other people, because then you can just sort of be out there and not worry about running into tons of folks, which is also really nice. But yeah, so it was a beautiful rainy morning, and now it's a beautiful sunny afternoon, and it's been a busy day. Good day, but definitely a very busy one. And we're in week 4 of April Powers, which is really awesome. I talked a bunch yesterday about how, the month certainly has not gone the way that I had originally planned. And part of that for me was just the timing of my my second vaccine appointment, which obviously was a non-negotiable thing. And part of it was just the fact that that things happen and things come up, and we have to adjust our expectations and our goals accordingly, and that is totally okay. So, I may not be exactly where I had intended to be by the end of this month, but I know I've made progress, and I've, identified goals that weren't necessarily serving me right now, and I've switched them and sort of identified new things that I want to work towards. And that's really important too. Always maintaining the flexibility to be able to look back at our goals and go, does this actually make sense for me now? Given where I am, given what my environment is like, given what my societal conditions are like, what my life conditions are like, given the things that I am working on right now, don't ever feel like just because you have made a specific goal that you are now chained to it. We set up this approach, we set up this expectation really young, which is super frustrating, because we're over here, expecting high school kids to be able to talk about what they want to do for the rest of their lives, and college kids to like make these sweeping decisions that are supposed to guide everything they do for the rest of their life. And it's like better to teach them that, you know, it's good to make goals, it's good to have plans, but you also need the flexibility to allow those things to change as you change. I could never have predicted at age 18 where I would be now, you know? Like that is simply like we're not prognosticators. We cannot see the future. And too often I think we just try to convince ourselves that we can. So, you know, I love this month of programming, and I'm really glad we're doing it. And I hope that you have really been able to enjoy it. And I hope that you set some goals for yourself that you were comfortable with. And I hope that you have continued to revisit them through the process. Identify whether they still make sense, given whatever else is happening in your life. And if they do, great. And if you're like, I think I need to shift my expectations for what I'm going to achieve this month, great. Okay? All right? We're on a lifelong journey here, my friends. We're not trying to lock ourselves into, I must get here and it has to be by the end of this month. No, that's not. We're going to be here for a long time, okay? But it is week 4, so this is our most intense week. We will ramp up the length of all of the timers most dramatically, so there will not be anything shorter. Sorry, just a lot of yawns. It's been a busy day. I've used a lot of my brain power, so there will not be any timers shorter than a 45:15. It's gonna be great though. It's gonna be great because you've been doing this class for a month now and you've been rocking it the whole time. And you're gonna have a great time. And then next week, we'll get to circle back to how the program looked in week 1, and you'll get to sort of gauge how far you've come. And that's really one of my favorite parts about this process is we spend a month ramping up the intensity, and then we get to do this comparison where we go back to where we were at the beginning, and you get to see, oh, this thing feels way easier than it did in the first week. Or, oh, wow, I was able to maintain my pace on this work interval a lot longer than I could that first week. And this is how we set ourselves up for success, by being like, all right, cool. Here are the things that I've improved on. That's awesome. And also by going, okay, so here's the thing that I still really want to work on. And that's great too, because that then gives us more paths forward. All right. So yeah, but that's next week. This week is us making that last push to the summit of the mountain. Oh my goodness. It's going to be fun. It's going to be intense, and you're going to rock it. Absolutely. So let's do our pre-class checklist. Let's make sure you've got your water in whatever vessel you are using. I obviously favor my giant mason jar. There we go. Oh yeah. You've got your comfy clothes, whatever that means to you. You've got your mat or mat-sized space on the floor. And if you use a fitness wearable, we can turn them on now to high-intensity interval training. There we go, because that's what we're doing. As if you didn't know that at this point. If you didn't know that, hi, welcome to Blanche Case Fitness. Most of my classes are high-intensity interval training. I've got one strength training class, and that's on Fridays. Every other time you're here, you can probably assume it's a HIIT class. All right. We ready to go? We ready to rock? We ready to roll? Yeah, we are. Okay. Let's do our warm-up, my friends. Hiya! My awkward scoot over to the mat. Okay. I'm going to have to clean this mat off. There's just so much random crap and random little pokey bits on it that I don't even know what they are or what I'm feeling, but they're irritating. All right, let's get that timer app going. One more big yawn. Look, sometimes you just have to yawn. It's totally okay. All right, I promise I get enough sleep. By the way, in case you're worrying that all this yawning on these streams means that I'm not getting enough sleep, I absolutely am. But, you know, when you've done a lot in a day, physically, mentally, or both, then sometimes you get to the end of the day and you're just like, all right, I'm feeling the need to yawn. But for now, I'm feeling the need to warm up. So, on your mats, on your backs, 1 foot crossed over the opposite knee. And as soon as you hear that timer go off, we will begin with hip rocks and bridges. So, yeah, rocking the hips up by contracting the abdominal muscles, which helps to pull them off the ground. And then bringing the standing leg down to the floor, coming up on the ball of the foot, and just bridging the hips up. And for the foot that you've got crossed over the on top of the opposite ankle, generally I would recommend keeping that foot flexed. It's going to help to protect this knee, which as we do the rocking of our hips up into the air, we sort of pull this leg towards us and pull this entire knee apparatus towards us, and it can add some uncomfortable or unpleasant torquing pressures onto our knees. So flexing your knee and just making sure that you've got a lot of muscles engaged along here, that just helps to keep your knee a little bit safer. All right, switch sides. Oh, it's such a good hip stretch though. I really love it for that. Just getting a little bit of a hip stretch in. Active stretch, obviously, because we're at the beginning of class. We are booting up systems. Yeah. Always a good time. But, yeah. Oh, man. I definitely, there is definitely a pleasure in having a day that was just unequivocally productive. Like, I had a lot of stuff to do, and I've been getting it all done at the appropriate times, feeling really good. Had some meetings that I had to attend and felt good about the meeting prep that I did before them. And it can be really nice and almost a relief. All right, time for our leg sequence. Let's do that. Jane Fonda. To feel that, present and focused. And, we don't always feel that way depending on a large variety of factors. So I'm quite pleased. I hope that your Wednesday is going similarly. I can't remember if I don't think I talked about this yesterday. And I don't think I watched the episode until Sunday. So I finished out Falcon and Winter Soldier this past weekend. And it was just a weird season of television. Like, not bad. There's a lot about the show that I enjoyed. And there were a lot of criticisms that I have. I think that the performances really anchor it. Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan do a great job together. Absolutely great. Anthony Mackie in particular just gets some fiery scenes that I was like sort of jaw dropped. I'm going to try to avoid spoilers as much as possible so that, if you haven't seen the series yet or you haven't finished the whole series yet, you're not getting spoiled on things. I think that there were almost too many storylines that they were trying to include because there was only like 6 episodes, and it wasn't quite enough to effectively achieve everything that they set up. So, you know, there's one storyline that, like, when it was good, it was really good, and when it was bad, it was just like, what the hell is happening here? There was one character who I was just like, did anybody who made this show actually ever watch the movies that this character appeared in previously? Because they bear no resemblance to who they've been set up to be. There's at least one cameo that I was like, well, this is fun, but also, how does this tie into anything else that's happening? And, like, you know, it's interesting because Marvel for a long time has had to toe the line between bringing their comic book stories to the big screen and making sure to create plots that are comprehensible to people who have never read the comics for any of these properties. And, you know, they've been doing that for well over a decade at this point. And, like, you know, when you got to Infinity Wars, they were like, we're just plopping you in. If you haven't seen the last 10 years, 13 years of movies, then you're kind of SOL. But they based it, you know, in the movie, it was, you need to have seen all of the other movies for that background, not you need to have read all of the comics for it to make sense, you know, because they've created another universe, basically. They've created the film and television universe, and that is sort of an entity unto itself. And I think that it was a really smart approach, you know. I think that they earned those two big, you know, Infinity Wars and Endgames. I think that they earned those because they had spent over a decade building out these stories and building out these characters as they appear in the movie universe, and making them make sense. And I feel like there were several things that happened in this series in particular that, like, you know, I did further digging and I was like, okay, there is sort of, you know, this is corroborated by stuff in the comics, but it is not corroborated by anything that they have shown us about these characters in the first movies that they did. You know, there were several characters who, like, either personality-wise or backstory-wise, it was like, this does not line up with anything that you told me about this character previously. And it just felt really jarring, in a frustrating way. Like, obviously, I think it could have been done and sort of built out, but it probably would have taken more than 6 episodes to do it. And so as it stood, it was like, okay, I mean, you have 13 years worth of movies and you couldn't tie anything in earlier. Like, y'all have been planning 20 steps ahead for the last, you know, 7 years at least. So I did find that frustrating. Like, I almost stopped watching the show after episode 3, I think. It just felt so disjointed. It felt like they were just bouncing from plot point to plot point to plot point and never really giving me any like a full view into any one plot point, never giving me a particular reason to care about what was happening. And I was like, well, I'm just tired and, like, not really invested. And then 4 and 5 just got me right back on that train. And were action-packed, absolutely, but in a much more cohesive way. And then 6, the last episode, I think, it stuck about 70% of the landing, I would say. You know, it was certainly not the worst finale episode of a season of television I've ever watched. Like, absolutely not. Nor was it the best, nor did it, it didn't live up to a lot of the promise of some of those earlier episodes. So, yeah, it was interesting. Like, I'm not mad that I watched it. Like, I did enjoy myself, primarily, but I do think that it really suffered from a lack of cohesion and just trying to do too many things at once. And that's a problem that a lot of shows have, and Marvel is obviously over here like, okay, we need to get everybody invested in the next round of tent poles for our cinematic universe, because we've killed off two of the big ones, and the third one, big one, I think is maybe still will be in movies, but I can't tell how they're going to use Thor going forward. But I know that I need Natalie Portman to take over the Thor mantle, I guess. Which is also hilarious because, like, she's been in 2 movies, both of them the Thor movies, so not like any of the Avengers ones. She wasn't in Endgame or Infinity War, and like, the first 2 Thor movies are, the best thing that can be said is that they're inoffensive, like, they're, they pleasantly kill a few hours of your time, is I think the best way that I've heard them described, and so I'm like, it's so interesting that they're going back to that well. Like, it would certainly not be the first time that they've recast, a semi-major role. So even if they wanted to go with the same character, like, it's interesting. You see, Marvel movies are so ubiquitous at this point that you see a broadening in the types of actors who are appearing in them now. But I will say that some actors seem more comfortable than others, and Natalie Portman, never struck me as particularly comfortable in her roles in the Marvel universe. So we'll see. There'll be obviously plenty of stuff coming down the pipeline. Oh my God. I'm exhausted just thinking about it. I'm glad that I get a little bit of a rest for a bit from the Marvel content. I think that is definitely needed, for me anyway, because I would like to go back to enjoying them and feeling excited about them. And honestly, I think that was another issue with, just not with the show itself, but when I watched Falcon and Winter Soldier, is just, I was already feeling really sort of worn down with Marvel content. And I think some of that, it bleeds into the viewing experience, And I think if it had been like a show that blew me away, that I probably would have moved past that a little more quickly. But yeah, it definitely has an impact. I would like to consume media that is not always tied to the Marvel universe or the DC universe. That would be cool. At least the DC universe feels very different. You know, I think I mentioned on stream a few weeks ago about actually watching through all 4 some hours of Zack Snyder's Justice League, and you know, I will say it is a very different superhero cinematic universe, and that's actually kind of nice, because it's nice to get a little bit of variation in there, you know, where it's not just the Marvel oeuvre. And Marvel has a very set and distinctive filming style now. Like, I could probably see just like a brief clip of something that I hadn't experienced before, and could still tell you if it was Marvel property or not. And DC, like, what they have in the last few movies that they've done is they have Zack Snyder's cinematic style, which, you know, is just as recognizable, but is also not a cinematic quality that's tied to the production company. This is just, hey, if you get Zack Snyder to direct your movie, this is what it's going to look like. Are you cool with that? All right. Yeah. Let's grab some water. Okie dokie. There we are. Yay. Thank you, moderator. Mods. I don't know how anybody would get through streaming without them. Everybody, never miss an opportunity to thank your mods in whatever channel you're in, whatever community you're taking part in, because they are doing critical work. Absolutely. All right, so it's Tabata's. It's Tabata's day. So we are going to do all 45-second work intervals, 15-second rest intervals. And that's for everything. So yeah, let's just run through the program. So our first set, I'm assuming you remember, we've got our high knee runs, and we've got our turtle planks. So rocking up on the feet, jump back into that plank, jump the feet forward, and repeat. So the rest period's going to be 5 seconds longer, which you wouldn't think would have that much of an impact, but definitely throws me off frequently. I'm like, did I miss a horn there somewhere? So don't worry, you didn't. Remember the first sound, that sound was not the go sound, okay? It's our stop, rest, get prepped, drink some water. Now we get on our mats, we get ready. So as soon as you hear the starting horn, you're moving, okay? And remembering 45 seconds, this is the longest of all of our Tabata intervals that we do. So you have to keep in mind, the nice thing about Tabatas in general is that they allow us to sort of bring a sprint mentality in, where we know that we can push a little bit harder than we might normally, because we're only going for 20 seconds or
30 seconds or what have you. This is obviously a longer sequence, so just keep in mind that that has an impact on how much overall energy you're going to need to get through it. Okay? So don't be surprised if you're going along and you're like, wow, this just feels so much more intense than I thought it would be. Well, that is totally normal because we're going for a lot more time before we hit those rests. Okay, at this point, I truly can't tell if what I'm feeling is actually stuff on the mat or if it's just, you know, some sort of weird nerve trigger or something. I really don't know. It's annoying. It probably, regardless, is a sign that I should clean this mat, which I do not do nearly frequently enough. That definitely needs to be much more of a part of my process because this mat gets a lot of use, and I think it's easier to sort of go, well, that's fine, when it's when I know that I'm the only one using it, you know, whereas in the gym it would be sprayed down every time. But just because you are the only one using your mat does not mean that you shouldn't clean it every once in a while. So, keeping that in mind. Oh man. Woo! Yeah, see? That extra 5 seconds, it gets me every time. All right. And remember that we're just jumping back to the plank, okay? So we're only going to here. We're not doing wave push-up at all, and that can feel really disconcerting because you feel like you're missing a step and you want to keep going. So remember, stop here, jump back forward, and repeat, okay? The other thing to keep in mind is that we need to make sure our shoulders are nice and stable because they're managing a lot of that transfer of weight as you jump the feet back through the air. Okay? Oh man. Here we go. We're halfway through, which is the good thing. Good thing to always keep in mind. And we're also getting the opportunity to switch back and forth from exercise to exercise, which is also really nice because it gives us the chance to switch things up and get that variety in there. So as we're doing our high knee runs, remember the aspirational version is knees up above the crease in the hips. But if you're not there, then just go for as high as you can get them, okay? And it may shift over the course of the sets too. Because, you know, I had a lot more energy for jumping or raising my knees up the first time that we did the high knee runs. By the third time, I'm feeling a little bit more exhaustion. And that's okay, absolutely. Just focus the goal on getting them up as high as they can go. Okay? That is all you need to focus on. So, as long as you're doing that, you are good. Oh man, it is warm in this room right now. Holy cow. This is the thing about shifting seasons, you know. During the winter, this is a great room for working out in because you get that extra heat push from down below, and so it keeps the room a bit warmer than it would be if I was down in the basement or something. But during the summer, it definitely shifts. It definitely flips around. And, you know, we're still in spring, but I'm still starting to feel it. Starting to feel that shift. Oh, man. Also, my thermostat is, it's got this weird program that I haven't figured out how to switch yet. And so it keeps being like, oh, you want to warm up the house to 71 degrees, right? And I'm like, no. Even in the winter, I don't want to do that. Like, what are you talking about? But it just, I have not figured out how to fix it yet. And so that's a little irritating. But it's okay. We are making new, aren't we, friends? All right. Good job, everybody. There we go. Yeah. Oh, yeah, no, the DC TV shows are far more cohesive than the universe, the cinematic universe. Because the cinematic universe at this point is just Zack Snyder's vision, you know? And that can get real exhausting real fast. All right. Yeah, very good. I haven't bothered to check either, honestly. It wouldn't surprise me though, you know, considering like the fact that there seems to be a hard divide, like they've cast a different actor as the Flash in the movieverse. They've cast a different actor as Martian Manhunter in the movieverse, like, so it wouldn't surprise me. All right, next set, my friends. The last week is where it gets a little weird. I have to cut out more of the overall sets because we're going for more time. So, our next set, we're going to do turtle jumps. So, similar to what we just did, but when you're up on your feet, just jump and go, okay? And then shrimps is the other exercise. So, back and forth along the mat, shoulders, then hips, shoulders, then hips. Oh, I hit the end of the mat. So I go back in the opposite direction. There we go. Fun times. All right, let's get back on our mats and get ready to go. Whew. Oh man. I do love doing our cardio class on Wednesdays. It is a really nice opportunity to get that extra pop of energy. You know, we're midway through the week, or rather, many of us are midway through the week. Not all of us, not everybody works that quote unquote standard Monday to Friday 9 to 5, but many of us are midway through the week, and there's just this, I feel like no matter what job you have now, because of school hours, most of us still have this innate sense of Wednesday being a day that is supposed to be kind of rough and exhausting, and oh man, you know, we're so far away from the weekend, and I feel like a lot of that early conditioning sticks with us even once we're well out of school and doing whatever else we're doing professionally. So, you know, no matter what your jobs are right now, I am willing to bet that Wednesdays still feel a little extra exhausting, and having an awesome high energy class, even though it feels a little counterintuitive, it can really help us to start building more energy back in. At least that's what I found. And hopefully you have too if you're still taking class with me on Wednesdays. Yeah, it's funny. Even during, during the pandemic, when time really had no meaning, and even if you were working a Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, you still weren't going anywhere or changing anything about your environment. Even then, I feel like Wednesday still maintains that pull for many of us. For myself, I guess I am the only person I can speak for in that instance, but yeah, I did definitely still notice it. And it's fascinating, you know, to think about the things that we carry with us through our lives because of how they were, you know, drilled into us for well over a decade and a half of our developmental time, because of school calendars. And, you know, that's another reason why I feel like summertime maintains this pull on us emotionally, where we have this image of summertime as the time of freedom, because of course when we were kids, it was the time when we did not have, or most of us did not have any responsibilities that we needed to worry about. And even though, you know, it's been, 15 years since I was in school, I feel like that is still something I carry with me and will probably carry with me for the rest of my life. What a strange thing. What a strange thing life is. There is so much that happens to us when we are younger that we don't even think about, or, you know, don't necessarily get much of a say in, and yet we carry it with us for the rest of our lives. Or we're, you know, breaking through it and breaking it down for the rest of our lives. And it makes me wish that we were better at paying attention to the kind of environment that we are creating for young people and the lessons that we are imparting to them. And I feel like so many people buy into this ultimately self-fulfilling prophecy where they're like, well, you know, the world is hard and everyone's just looking out for themselves, so I have to teach you to do the same. And it's like, well, that's not a fundamental truth of the world, my friend. That is something that we create every time we feel like we need to train kids to be hard and cynical rather than training them to, you know, take care of each other and think about the impact of their actions on other people and, you know, value other people in the way that they value themselves, right? And it's just like, we could eliminate so much of that pain and difficulty if we didn't go into every child's education from this false starting point that the world is, by necessity, really hard and cruel. And we create a lot of that environment just by that simple assumption. And it really sucks. It's really sad. And, you know, if you're lucky, you become better able to identify it as you get older and, you know, start to break down that conditioning, but you're still being impacted by people who were raised in that system and who maybe have not taken the time to break down that conditioning. And so we end up with this, self-fulfilling prophecy that continues to create these barriers just by virtue of us assuming that they are immutable instead of things that we're creating. Oh yeah, Supergirl as well. Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow, The Flash, and Arrow. That was a broader, deeper conversation about not immediately training kids to grow up believing the world has to be hard and brutal and everybody is cruel and only looking out for themselves. Don't worry, if you're focusing your brain power on the workout, that's fine. I'm just chattering to myself while I attempt to get through 45 seconds of turtle jumps. Okay. Oh man. All right. I'm going to be a little bit wild and crazy today. These are not new exercises. They're not even in new positions in the timer. They're just not usually paired together. So we're going to do jump ropes. Remember, even if you don't own a jump rope, that's fine. And second exercise is going to be bicycles. So contracting those abdominal muscles. One knee in, elbow to the opposite knee, the other leg extended but off the ground, and switch, and switch, and switch. All right? So jump ropes and bicycles today. Yeah. Woo. Oh my goodness. We are blasting through. Well, that's what happens when your overall timers are 8 minutes long. It's not that we're doing less work. It's just that we're doing the same thing for a lot longer than usual, so we don't have as much time for as many things. So when we go back around next week, you're going to be like, oh yeah, there were all these other things in here that we had to sort of shuffle around as the month progressed. And that is totally fine. All right, we're jumping rope. And yes, I am rotating my arms and my hands as if I am manipulating an actual jump rope. So keep that in mind. We're not just jumping up and down in one place. Okay, and then getting our bicycles back on the menu. So remembering to keep our hands not behind our heads, right? We're not trying to lace our hands together behind our head or our neck, because that causes us to try and pull forward in an attempt to compensate for the abdominal muscles. And that's how we end up, doing core exercises and then finishing and being like, well, I don't really feel it in my core, but man, my neck is really stiff. And that is an immediate signal to me that you are not actually engaging your core as part of that exercise. And that's fine. Or rather, that is a fairly normal issue. Yeah, how normal, you ask? Well, it wasn't until this past year that I finally really dug in and went, oh, I haven't actually been using that muscle group for those exercises. And once I started doing that, oh man, it really changed so much about my own fitness. And so that's the thing, because the other thing that you may do, is you may not be using your hands behind your head or your neck to make things easier, but that does not guarantee that you're not still using other muscle groups to perform the exercise. And so the thing that would happen for me is that I would do certain exercises and I would finish and I would be like, cool, I don't really feel anything. That must mean that I have super strong core. And don't get me wrong, I have had a pretty good core for most of my life. You don't train as a dancer without that. But the reason that I wasn't feeling my core after these abdominal exercises was definitely not because my core was too strong. And now I feel my core all the time when I'm doing these exercises. And it is definitely stronger than it's ever been. So if you've been doing these exercises and going, I don't feel anything, my core must be awesome. That right there is a sign to me that you are probably not engaging your core as strongly as you could be for those exercises. And man, it makes a huge difference. It's really, honestly, been very cool to discover that there was so much left for me to develop in that muscle group, because I had sort of written off an entire muscle group, and that's just silly. There's always more for us to discover and to develop. And one of the things that that we have to be careful about as we move forward in our fitness journey is getting to that place where we assume that we are experts. And, you know, because that brings with it the danger of then not paying attention to feedback and not paying attention to when you are learning something new. Just assuming that all of your previous training just means that you're good. And don't get me wrong, your experience, your overall fitness experience will go a long way towards making things easier to learn. It absolutely will. But that doesn't mean that you're an immediate expert, and it doesn't mean that you don't still need to pay focused attention and to maybe look at different activities and movements with a different light, because different activities have different end goals, and you don't use the same techniques, movement techniques, necessarily in one that you would use in another. So even as, you know, I continue to teach and to move forward on my own overall fitness journey, I am constantly aware that there is still so much for me to learn. And that's the fun for me, you know. I get to keep learning and growing and finding new activities and finding new techniques and discovering that, oh, this area that I thought I was pretty much peaked in does actually have more things for me to learn, and that's just so cool to discover. Whew. All right, good job, everybody. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Oh yeah. No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. So much of that does tie into living in a late stage capitalist hellscape. And, you know, I am very glad that I know so many people who are doing everything they can to change their own mindsets and then to bring that new knowledge and approach into different fields that they work in. I have a remarkable diversity of friends in terms of what fields they are in. And that gives me hope. That definitely gives me hope. Yeah, true. Yes, not just the late state. That was early, middle, and that, you know, baby capitalism in its crib. Cancel culture and people communism. All right. Look, communism is not a dirty word. Cancel culture is what we like to call accountability when we are not used to actually having it. Okay? And if that is not something you agree with or enjoy as an ideology, then this is definitely not the fitness stream for you. All right, we've got one more set, my friends. One more set to do. And it's going to be our flying chickens and our front superheroes. So flying chickens on our mats, feet together. We jump them apart in the air with our elbows. We've got our thumbs at chest height. If you wear a bra, you can hook your thumbs behind your bra straps. Lifting the elbows up and then down like the most majestic of barnyard fowl. So up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, just like that. And then our front superheroes lying on our stomachs on the ground, feet or arms and legs extended. Lift arms, legs, and chest up into the air and lower, lift and lower. And that's going to be the set. So here we are. Here we are, my friends. We are going to finish out strong with this last tabata, and then we'll do some stretching at the end. So everybody back on your mats. Hopefully you've been drinking water this whole time. That's always my hope. Getting that timer going. So flying chickens and then front superheroes. Alrighty, everybody getting ready, get set. We're almost through class and I'm still not used to the extra 5 seconds in that timer. Alright, so here we go. So since this is our last set, we have a little more opportunity to just leave everything on the mat. You know, we've had to make decisions throughout class about how we are going to manage our energy because we're doing longer intervals, and you want to make sure that you can maintain the movement for those intervals and be able to keep doing class as you get through. But now, at the end of class, we can officially say that we've got nothing more that we need to save that energy for. So, imagining that we are at the very end of a road race, a half marathon, and we can see the finish line, and we dig in and find that last pocket of energy that we didn't even necessarily know we still had, and we can really just push for as much additional intensity as possible as we head in to the finish line. Whew! So just keeping that in mind through this whole set, and you're gonna get a nice stretch and cool down period at the end, which is gonna be great. All right, getting up, getting ready again. This is intense. This has been an intense class, and it's supposed to be. It's week 4 of April Powers, so we are absolutely here to be stretching ourselves a little closer to our limits and just seeing what improvements we can make and what we can achieve on this journey. So, you know, if you're getting to the end of class today and you're like, oh man, I definitely think that I am hitting that point, that stopping point. Well, don't worry. This is the end of the program. Until next week, when we go back through everything, which will be so awesome and just give us more opportunity to really see how far we've come. All right. Oh, man. Front superheroes are intense because they also engage your back muscles. So it's not just a core exercise. We're looking at strengthening those back muscles as well, and that can feel really, really intense. Woo! Oh man. And they're not necessarily muscles that we are used to engaging in that particular manner, you know. And that's the cool thing about finding new exercises, is that frequently they will end up activating areas of our muscles that we didn't know we were sort of not engaging with until we try a new exercise and go, wow, I am, you know, feeling that in a place I'm not used to. Or, you know, get up the next day and we're like, wow, I am sore in a way I'm not used to. And yeah, that is why we like to add new exercises in. Not all the time, because there's also a lot of value in taking the time to get to know exercises really well and working on that form to the point where you do not have to think about it and you can really focus your energy on improving your strength, stamina, power, etc. You know, so there's a lot of value in that, but there's also a lot of value in just trying new things, adding new exercises to the docket, and going, all right, let's see what I hadn't been noticing, and let's see what I can do to strengthen this other area that I haven't been working on. All right? Oh my goodness, we are in our last 2 sets, my friends. So you can really just focus in and say, all right, all that energy that I've been holding back, I can let it all go now and leave it all on the mat. I don't have to hold back. I don't have to get prepped for more intensity. I can just say, okay, here I am, and I'm gonna finish out strong. And obviously, our front superheroes are less cardio heavy, but at this point in class, with the fatigue that we have, they're still gonna feel intense. So as we get to the finish, I want you to focus in, keep lifting arms, legs, and chest as high as you can. Pay attention to the muscles that you're engaging, particularly in your back, and just keep lifting on as regular a cadence as you can. Oh. And then pat yourself on the back, because you made it to the end of class. Good job, everybody. Holy crow. All right. Let's do some stretching. So we're gonna do our quad stretch, favorite quad stretch. So whichever leg is the working leg, folding it, heel is on the outside of the hip. Pull that heel in as close to the hip as you can. The other leg, we're just letting the knee fall open against the floor. Nothing special. And then slowly, so that you're not signaling your quad that it's supposed to contract, because we don't want to do that. Slowly, we let ourselves backwards, we let our torsos backwards only as far as we need to a really intense stretch in the quad. So for some of you that may be here, and that's fine. Some of you may make it all the way down to the elbows, and some of you may make it all the way down to the floor. And wherever you end up, let's take a second to settle in. And again, we want to move slowly so that our brain doesn't go, oh, I'm supposed to activate this muscle, because activating a muscle automatically causes it to try and contract. We don't want this muscle to contract right now. We want it to lengthen. And now we're going to take our 4 deep breaths. Every time you inhale, visualizing the oxygen going to wherever you're feeling the most intensity of sensation. Every time you exhale, just trying to sink a little bit more deeply into the stretch. So here we go. That's 1. That's 2. That's 3. And 4. All right, and slowly and gently make our way back up to seated. Don't unfold this leg under its own power. Take one hand to the knee, one hand to the ankle, unfold it manually. Extend it out in front of you, bring the other leg to meet it. Shake out those knees, flex the feet, and then point, then flex, then point. Circle the ankles in one direction, and then the other direction. There we go. All right. And now for the other side. Same notes, getting into the position, folded leg, heel on the outside of the hip, as close to the hip as possible. Remembering as we're letting ourselves down that you may be able to go farther into the stretch on this side, or you may not be able to go as far. And that's fine either way. We're not symmetrical creatures, okay? We don't automatically have the same levels of strength and flexibility in different limbs, okay? So wherever you are at, we've taken a second to settle into this position, and we're going to do those same 4 deep breaths, visualizing the oxygen going to where you're feeling the most intensity of sensation on the inhale, and then settling a little more deeply into the stretch on the exhale. So here we go. That's 1. That's 2. That's 3. And 4. And slowly and gracefully letting ourselves back up. One hand to the knee, one hand to the ankle, unfolding that leg in front of us, bringing the other leg to meet it, shaking out those knees. Flex the feet and point and flex and point and circle the ankles in one direction and then the other direction. All right. All right, let's see here. What do we want to do? Let's take our wide position here. So we're going to get some good hamstring stretching, okay? And we are going to make sure that our knees are pointing straight up at the ceiling. So this may mean that you have to engage some of the same musculature in the back of the hip joint. And if you're struggling to keep them there, then just bring your legs a little bit closer to one another, okay? And be honest with yourself about that. Nobody needs to be a hero here, okay? So, Now we're going to face both shoulders towards one leg and fold all the way over. Check back on this other knee, make sure it's still pointing straight up at the ceiling. For this leg, just shake the quad muscle around a bit to make sure it's not clenched. We've got our shoulders square to the leg, and we're going to take 4 deep breaths here and just keep trying to settle into this stretch. Here we go. That's 1. That's 2. That's 3. And 4. And now we're going to take whatever the same arm as leg is. We're going to take that arm to the inside of the leg, open the shoulders out, bring the other arm up and over, reaching towards that foot, and just getting a nice long stretch in the lat there. And we're going to take those 4 deep breaths again. Here we go. That's 1. That's 2. That's 3. And 4. And back up to seated. And to the other side. So both shoulders facing towards that leg, folding over. Check back, make sure that knee is still pointing straight up at the ceiling. Shake that quad out a little bit to make sure you're not clenching it. And we're going to take those 4 deep breaths right here. Here we go. That's 1. That's 2. That's 3. And 4. Now take the same arm as leg to the inside. Open the shoulders up, other arm up and over, reaching towards that foot. Getting a nice stretch along your side. Let's take those 4 deep breaths. Here we go. That's 1. That's 2. That's 3. And 4. Back up. You can shake out those knees a little bit. And I think we are good to go. Yeah! Awesome, awesome, awesome. Oh man, I haven't drunk nearly enough water. All right. Yeah, good class, my friends. We made it through all 4 weeks for Jump Around anyway. All 4 weeks of April Powers, which is super exciting. Next week, you're gonna have the wonderful experience of getting to come back around to week 1 and go, ooh, yeah, this feels a lot easier than it did. So, feeling good. I hope you're feeling good. I hope the weather is good wherever you are, whatever your definition of good weather is. You know, it's a funny thing where so many people like see that it's raining and they're like, oh, it's so gloomy out. And I'm always like, oh, I really like that weather. So, but you know what? Whatever the weather is, however your day has been, we had an awesome class. And that is how we like to go here. And now we get to do all of the fun post-workout things like triumphant shower, good meal, continuing to hydrate, all that good stuff. There are 2 more classes this week. Friday at 6 p.m. Mountain Time is Functional Home Fitness, where we do weight training using objects you can find around the house. Saturday morning at 9 a.m. is the weekend kickoff, which is our awesome strength and stamina focused body weight class. So join in for either or both of those classes. We'll be finishing out week 4 of April Powers in both those classes, so it'll be challenging, but it'll be a lot of fun. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. All those handles will be in my end cards, but they are all variations on Blanche Case Fitness. My YouTube channel is where I upload all of the VODs from these streams, so you never have to miss a class, even if you can't make the live cast. So definitely head over there and subscribe. If you want to help support me financially making these streams, I have a Coffee account for one-time donations, or you can subscribe to this channel if you want to support on a longer-term basis. Either way, your donations are always very much appreciated. And if you want to help me keep growing this channel and this community, then please tell your friends, loved ones, co-workers, anyone looking for an awesome class. I stream 4 days a week. We have a great community here. We have a lot of fun, and we're doing great things in 2021. So the more the merrier. All right, my friends, I'm going to finish off this water, go have a shower, and just relax for the rest of the night. And I hope that you get to do the same. So I will see all of you back here again on Friday. Mwah! Have a great night.